You know that little made-in label you see on, well, everything? Your phone, your coffee maker, your car parts. For decades, that little label has told the story of globalization. But what if I told you that entire story is being quietly, and I mean radically rewritten right under our noses?
And that's really the big question we're tackling here. Is the whole made-in era just over? Because there's this massive, almost invisible shift happening in global manufacturing. It's a change so fundamental, it makes you wonder if the whole idea of a product being made in just one country is becoming a thing of the past.
All right, so let's break this down. The old way of doing things? Super simple. Germany exports cars, China exports phones. It's all centralized in these giant manufacturing hubs. But this new model? Whoa, it completely flips the script. We're not just talking about nations exporting the product anymore. No, they're exporting the entire factory, the whole shebang. The game isn't about chasing cheap labor around the globe anymore. It's about deploying these super high-tech automated blueprints pretty much anywhere you want.
This shift has a name, and it's a powerful one: factory as a product. So let's get into what that actually means. Okay, think of factory as a product, or FaaP, as the ultimate factory in a box. So instead of a country buying millions of phones from China, it can now just buy the entire ready-to-go phone factory from an architect nation, and they can just deploy it on their own soil. You see? You're not just buying the product anymore, you're buying the whole process. So, how does this actually work in practice? The pizza analogy is probably the best way to think about it. Imagine you're not just buying a pizza anymore. No. Instead, a master chef in Italy designs the world's most amazing pizza oven, right? Then they hand over the secret family recipe, ship you the oven and a few easy-to-assemble pieces, and boom. Suddenly, you're the one making world-class pizza in your own town. That's FaaP in a nutshell. Germany designs the recipe, India licenses the blueprint, the modular robots get shipped over, and voila! You've got local production up and running almost instantly.
So what's the big driver behind this huge shift? Well, a massive part of it comes down to one thing: the cost of energy. I mean, this chart tells a pretty powerful story. Just look at these prices for industrial electricity. In early 2026, the price in Germany was hovering around 100 euros per megawatt hour. In the USA, it was less than half that, at $48. So when it gets way too expensive to even power your factory at home, the new logic becomes really simple. Just sell the factory itself to places where energy is cheap and plentiful.
Okay, but this whole transformation isn't just happening on its own. It's being driven by a handful of really powerful corporations and countries. You can think of them as the new arms dealers of industry, because they're basically equipping nations for a whole new kind of economic war.
And here they are. It's fascinating, really. Each of these architect nations has its own specialty. You've got Germany providing what you could call the recipe. That's the complex process logic from companies like Siemens. Then there's Japan, bringing the muscle. We're talking high-precision robotics from giants like Fanuc. The USA contributes the brain, the software and AI that orchestrates everything from companies like Rockwell. And then you have China, which really delivers scale, exporting entire industrial parks. Together, these guys form the very core of this new global supply chain.
So with a change this big, how is it redrawing the economic map? You can bet there are going to be some clear winners and some losers. And the consequences are, well, they're profound.
All right, first up, let's look at the seller in this equation, Germany. This is a country that's making a massive pivot. It's going from a nation famous for made in Germany to one that's becoming known for engineered in Germany but made somewhere else.
And this slide just brilliantly illustrates Germany's dilemma. On one hand, its giant corporations, the Siemens of the world, are raking in record profits that are totally disconnected from the German national economy. But back home, the country is facing some really serious risks. We're talking about domestic manufacturing job losses and the hollowing out of its famous Mittelstand. Those are the small and medium-sized businesses that have always been the backbone of its supply chain.
Okay, now let's flip over to the United States. With its super low energy costs and strong capital markets, the US is basically becoming a giant magnet, pulling in these turnkey factories from all over the world. And for the US, there's a clear trade-off here. The benefits? They're huge. You get much more secure supply chains, you get high-tech jobs coming back home. It's a big win. The potential downside, though? Well, it could mean higher prices for us, the consumers. It might be the end of that era of ultra-cheap imported goods. But there's another more subtle risk here. If you're always importing the factory blueprints, you might start to forget how to draw them yourself, and that could create a real deficit in foundational R&D down the line.
All right, now let's look at a major player on the buyer side of this new world, India.
By buying up these plug-and-play factories, India is positioning itself to become a new workshop for the world, essentially leapfrogging decades of traditional industrial development.
And I mean, this is an incredible opportunity. India is seeing this massive boom in jobs and exports. Just look at mobile phones. Exports are projected to hit $22 billion. It's an amazing shortcut. But, and this is a big but, this shortcut comes with a hidden catch, a major vulnerability that's being called the sovereign industrial trap. And that brings us to what might be the most critical part of this entire story. Because hidden inside this shiny new model of manufacturing is a really profound and potentially dangerous risk.
This is the question that every single nation rushing to buy these turnkey solutions really has to ask itself. What's the hidden cost? What's the real price of all this progress? And here's the answer. It's a new kind of dependency, and some are calling it technological colonialism. See, you might own the factory building. You own the land it sits on. You employ the workers. You have production sovereignty. But if you're completely reliant on a foreign corporation for every single software update, every spare part, every major repair, have you really achieved technological sovereignty?
These right here are the invisible chains. A nation's entire industrial base could become completely dependent on foreign software licenses. A factory could be forced to shut down just waiting for one single proprietary spare part from overseas. And think about this. What happens if the architect nation decides to impose sanctions? Not on goods, but on software updates. Or even worse, what if they use a digital kill switch? You might own the hardware, but they control the on button.
So what does all of this mean for the future of trade, for globalization as we know it? The entire logic is being turned completely on its head.
So what can we predict for this new era? Well, first, the future of trade isn't really about giant shipping containers anymore. It's about transmitting digital recipes. The value is shifting from logistics to intellectual property. Second, the trade wars of the future, they probably won't be fought over things like steel tariffs, but over access to critical software updates. And finally, here's the paradox. While a distributed global factory system is more resilient to local supply chain shocks, the architect nations themselves face a brand new risk: massive political instability as their own domestic manufacturing jobs start to disappear.
Ultimately, this quote just captures the new reality perfectly. In the era of the everywhere factory, simply operating the machinery isn't where the power is anymore. The real winners, the winners of the 2030s, will be the ones who can move from just using the factory to replicating its logic and eventually designing the next one themselves. And that leaves every nation, every industry, with a really critical choice. Are you content to just buy the factory, or are you going to fight to become the architect?